Psalm 56 falls in the line of Psalms 52 through 59, which express David's trust and his struggles and his calls for God to intervene in his life because of enemies who are attacking him. You can see the heading of this psalm, like many of the psalms, these headings provide us some historical context. And we can certainly go to those passages uh, to obtain a bigger picture of why some of these words were written, some of the thoughts and how they flow out of those historical situations. But in terms of the Psalms themselves, I don't think it's absolutely critical that we go to those references because we can see that the Psalms are written in a certain order, they fit together, and they wrestle with a lot of the same themes. And so, as I pointed out before, I want to suggest continually we can look at these Psalms and we can pull them from their historical situations, not to make them say what they do not say, but to see how they fit within the larger picture of how the Psalms, very prophetically, so to speak, look toward the Messiah himself and how the Messiah will reign. But until that time, how David and the writers of the Psalms are perceiving the struggles of being in that line out of which the Messiah will eventually come. And so in this prayer, we see David moving from a request that God would be merciful to him to an expression of his stating that he trusts in the Lord, in God who can save him. This alludes back to, or should I say, even more directly, points back to the final statement in Psalm 55. Just prior to this, we can see David says, "But as for me, I trust in you." And so here, David is expressing such trust as he calls out to the Lord for mercy, and then he expresses his trust in the Lord. See the next line in David's prayer, he moves from his request that God will be merciful to his expression of trust, and now to his statement of the problem. They seek my life, essentially, David is saying. David moves from a call for mercy to his expression of trust to his statement of the problem, and now his request for intervention. As David realizes that he is representative of uh, the people God has chosen to be a witness to the world, and is out of David's line, the Messiah will come. When David asks God to intervene and to record his misery and expresses his statement of confidence that God will indeed come against his enemies, David is asking God to bring down the opposition that would keep the Messiah from eventually coming out of his line. David then moves from all the previous to his proclamation, his confession, his belief that indeed the enemies that have opposed him will in fact turn back, and David will be the one that stands. You see David expressing his victory towards the end, uh, declaring to God, "Yes, you have delivered me." A statement of praise, even though we don't see the word praise, and a statement of celebration amidst the struggle. You probably noticed the statement of David's trust, even in the midst of his fear, which is expressed two times, a little bit differently in the second declaration of it, but essentially saying the same thing that uh, even amidst this tension between having trust in God and facing his opposition, David is still able to reassure himself and to express his trust, his faith in God who will save him amidst these tensions. And so, as one writer puts it, as we sing this psalm with our King, that is Jesus the King, we too cry urgently in our fear, like David does here. We too take comfort in his covenant promise to the King, and we too know what it is to be both afraid and unafraid in that strange tension of experience while confident in this final life. I ask you, what tension are you feeling now? It is not unusual to trust in God, to realize He is completely in control of the details of your life, to express your faith by declaring such praises, such statements of confidence, while at the same time struggling because the struggles seem so real and sometimes they never seem to go away. In fact, sometimes when you pray, they seem like they increase rather than decrease. When I am afraid, join with me. I put my trust in you, O God, in God, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? Can you imagine Jesus himself identifying with this psalm as he faced the prospect of death? And we in him can also face such struggles with courage because we are in him and he has taken our place to endure them and to gain the victory.